Amber Chanel Hoops was born on the 27th of December 1980. She resided with her grandparents Norris and Kathleen Burgener in the 2700 block of East Lincoln Road in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Amber somewhat struggled socially. She was described by her relatives as socially withdrawn, with just a few friends. The young woman was also diagnosed with vitiligo, a skin condition that causes white-coloured spots on her skin. Growing up though, she was extremely close to her family, especially her younger sister, and Amber had a lot of interests. She was a regular at her local church and enjoyed creative writing, photography, playing the piano and singing. When Amber graduated from high school, she took a job as a nanny for 2 children. Amber loved children, so the job was a perfect fit for her. She was also planning on enrolling in culinary school, however she would never get that chance. 20-year-old Amber Hoops was last seen on September the 14th, 2001. That evening at around 10 p.m, she spoke on the phone to her sister. The pair would often chat to each other. Her grandparents went to bed around 10:30 p.m, and at that time it is believed Amber was in her room. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at this point, and her grandparents went to sleep, expecting to see Amber in the morning. Amber's grandparents owned Burgener's classic truck and auto body shop. The shop adjoined the residence. At approximately 1 a.m, Kathleen woke up and noticed that Amber's bedroom light and TV was still turned on. However, when she went in her room, Amber was not there. Slightly concerned, she woke up her husband, and the pair went out to look together. The body shop had a business computer, and Amber would occasionally go in to email her friends. When her grandparents checked the back door, it was unlocked. Inside the workshop, the computer monitor was turned on, suggesting Amber had probably been there. However, there was no sign of Amber now. At this point, her grandparents called the police. When officers arrived at the family home, her worried and panicked grandparents highlighted their concerns. It wasn't normal for Amber to leave without telling someone, and there was absolutely no indication she had anywhere to be. Investigators searched the property and spoke to locals as well as family and friends, but it quickly became clear that something sinister had likely happened. One of the shop's pickup trucks vanished from the parking lot on the night Amber went missing. The vehicle was discovered abandoned in a nearby parking lot shortly afterwards. The keys were in the ignition, but there was no additional evidence at the scene. The theft of the vehicle seemed no coincidence for Amber's loved ones or those investigating the case. It seemed almost certain that someone had visited the property that night and abducted Amber. On the morning of June the 2nd, 2002, Bonneville County Sheriff's deputies responded to a residence on Highway 26 in the Milo area where a 14-year-old girl was discovered missing. The young girl had been camping in the back garden of her family's residence with her siblings. However, when the morning came round and the siblings woke up, the young girl had gone. Immediately, detectives began searching for the girl, but it would only be a few hours until the girl would be located. Later that day, the 14-year-old made a call to her father's workplace, and it would be discovered that the girl had been taken in the middle of the night. She was later taken to her property where she was assaulted and chained to the bed. Fortunately, when her kidnapper left to go to work, she managed to free herself. The man who had taken her was Keith Glenn Hescock. He was no stranger to the girl's family. Officers began to search his property, but when he returned home and officers attempted to apprehend him, he was not prepared to go willingly. Hescock fled in his vehicle and led them on a 40-mile high-speed chase. Ultimately, the chase would end up in a shootout. Hescock shot and killed a police dog, shot and wounded an officer before realising he had no way out. When he was shot with a police bullet and fell to the ground, he opted to finish the job himself. For investigators looking into the disappearance of Amber Hoops, they were already aware of Hescock. He was a friend of one of Hoops' relatives and had previously worked at the auto shop. Keith quit his job about 2 years before Hoops disappeared. Her grandparents claimed he had a vendetta against them and had threatened Norris shortly before Amber went missing. When she vanished, they immediately believed he was involved. Although police did look into Keith, he had an alibi for the night Amber went missing, so authorities did not consider him a serious suspect until the incident involving the 14-year-old girl. Now he had moved to the front of the suspect list. Unfortunately, the opportunity to investigate him further had ended on that day. In 2007, in remembrance of Hoops, September the 14th was officially designated as Idaho Falls Missing Persons Day. Hescock has also been considered a person of interest in the disappearance of 9-year-old Stephanie Crane. The young girl disappeared after departing the Chalice bowling alley in Chalice, Idaho on October the 11th, 1993. She was last seen walking on Highway 93 towards Chalice High School at approximately 6 p.m. that evening. Accounts differ as to where Stephanie was going that night, but she never returned home and has never been seen again. Hescock was believed to be in the area at the time of her disappearance and owned a truck with a similar description to the one that was reported acting strangely in the area. Authorities did have other suspects in Stephanie's case, but no one has ever been charged. The Bonneville County Sheriff's Office still considers Amber's case to be active and continues to follow tips and information in an attempt to find Amber and return her to her family. However, as of 2025, both Amber Hoops and Stephanie Crane remain missing, and their cases unsolved.